We go on the air at 4. We're tracking changing weather. Let's take a live look over Arnold right now. Temperatures back in the 60s today, but it's going to feel a whole lot colder by the end of the weekend. Thank you for joining us. I'm Brent Solomon.
And I'm Kay Quinn. We also have a chance for a little bit of rain over the next several hours. Chief Meteorologist Scott Connell has the timeline. He's in the Weather First Weather Center. Scott?
Well, we are tracking the potential of some rain here later on this evening and through the overnight hours, but not everybody's going to get a whole lot of rainfall, and it's certainly dry around St. Louis right now. Just the clouds overhead, and yes, it's still mild. Temperatures will be about 40 degrees colder this time Sunday afternoon. Looking over at the Kirkwood Farmers Market, still time to get your tree. They have some Fraser firs looking good out there. Radar pictures pretty quiet here. The Weather First Doppler radar around St. Louis. Nothing on it at this point close to town. You have to travel out into western Missouri before you start to pick up a few showers close to that front. What we see in southeast Missouri, southern Illinois, maybe a couple of spritzes down towards Cape Girardeau, but not much more than that. That is our weather system out to the west. Ahead of it, we've had temperatures well into the 50s and lower 60s. Columbia is still 61. We're still 60. Even Chicago at 55 degrees. As we head through this evening, the rain chances begin to increase. Anything should be pretty isolated or scattered through 11 o'clock, midnight, and then maybe a better chance from about midnight to 3 o'clock for hearing a rumble or two of thunder, especially northwest of St. Louis. Not expecting severe weather, and some of us won't even get a drop of rain out of this. We'll track it out with Futurecast in just a few minutes.
And we'll be standing by for that. A reminder, you can get the Weather First forecast to your phone anytime. Text the word weather to 314-425-5355.
Seniors living in St. Louis will soon see a freeze in their property taxes. The Board of Aldermen took a final vote to approve the plan this morning. Our political editor, Mark Maxwell, is live downtown with what you need to know about the plan. Mark?
Good afternoon, Kay. That senior property tax freeze is finally headed to Mayor Jones' desk once and for all. You have to be 62 or older to qualify. That's 5 years younger than the age limit in the county, where they set it at 67. Also, you have to live in a home $500,000 or less. That's the valuation limit there. But there are a few catches here. For example, the next time the city is scheduled to reassess the value of your home is 2025. So that freeze won't protect you from a tax hike for another year or two. And other taxing districts like the zoo or museums or the schools, they can still raise your real estate taxes. Only city government opted to freeze its future increases for those affected seniors. Aldermen today said they had to update that portion of Missouri state law in the local ordinance that created this tax break because most counties across the state don't have the same government structure that we have here in St. Louis.
It took a lot of effort to get to the point where it is now, and had a community input and engagement process, as well as working with the collector's office, the assessor's office, the various taxing districts that are get and really survive off of the property real estate taxes that are paid. So it was a big effort to make it work for the city of St. Louis, and it took some time.
That debate's over. Now new debate just beginning. A number of new bills emerging at City Hall today about medical debt forgiveness, a rental registry to try and identify problem landlords, and another bill that would increase the oversight of police surveillance tools, those cameras that populate the data collected at the Real-Time Crime Center. A lot more debate to come in the weeks ahead. Live downtown, Mark Maxwell, 5 on your side.
All right, Mark, thanks. A St. Louis man accused of a violent home invasion in Belleville is now being held in the St. Clair County Jail. Tyreen Smith is facing several charges today, including criminal sexual assault by force. This is a booking photo from a previous arrest in St. Louis County this year. Police say he forced his way into the home of a 60-year-old woman on West A Street early Tuesday. They say he then beat, raped, and robbed her before taking off in her car. Police later arrested him near Springfield, Illinois, when he crashed the woman's car. Investigators say this was a random attack.
Today is the last day for Missouri counties to finish felony marijuana expungements, and many counties are not expected to meet that deadline. In November of 2022, voters passed Amendment 3, which legalized recreational marijuana use in Missouri. The amendment required the expungement of all nonviolent marijuana-related misdemeanors and felonies. Since then, almost 100,000 cases across the state have been expunged. The counties that missed the deadline could face legal action. The Israel-Hamas war entered its third month today as fighting intensifies.
That's right, and in the past day, the Israeli army says its forces have struck about 450 targets in the densely populated Gaza Strip. NBC's Raf Sanchez reports from Israel.
The Secretary General of the United Nations has called for an emergency meeting of the UN Security Council where he hopes that the nations of the world will impose an immediate ceasefire on Israel and Hamas as they battle in Gaza. But it is not looking likely that that ceasefire will come into effect. The United States, among others, is saying Israel needs more time to carry out its military operations against Hamas. It opposes a ceasefire while the hostages remain in Hamas captivity. That is contrary to the views of many, many nations around the world and the leadership of the United Nations, who are saying that the humanitarian situation in Gaza has become so dire that there is no alternative to a ceasefire. The UN is saying Gaza is on the brink of irreversible disaster. They say nowhere near enough humanitarian aid is getting in, and what little aid is arriving can't be distributed because there's just not enough fuel to get all of that aid to where it needs to go. We have been hearing from Palestinian civilians, especially in the south, in the city of Han Yunis, who are saying they just cannot make any decisions about how to keep their children safe. They don't know whether they should head further south to the Egyptian border, where they may not have shelter, where they may not have food, where they may not have water, or to stay in their homes, even as Israeli forces are closing in. Raf Sanchez, NBC News, Tel Aviv.
And within just the past hour, we've learned the U.S. vetoed the UN resolution demanding an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, saying it would strengthen Hamas. Well, the deadline now approaching to register assault weapons if you live in Illinois. The registration is part of the Protect Illinois Communities Act, which passed in January. This week, state police said they're gearing up to enforce that new measure. The rules they're proposing will be reviewed for approval come Tuesday, but critics are skeptical over the logistics of that enforcement. We actually caught up with one critic.
The Illinois State Police's own attorney said, well, this is going to be a decision for local states, county states attorneys to decide how they're going to prosecute and how they're going to move forward with it. So I guess that's further brings up other questions about how this is all going to work out.
And political editor Mark Maxwell will have expanded coverage of that ban on this week's episode of The Record. We will also hear from Highland Park shooting survivor Ashby Beasley. You can tune in Sunday night right after Sports Plus and find more on the latest political news by texting the word record to 314-425-5355.
Two tourists in Atlanta saved the day at an historic site. How they prevented major damage, the birth home of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
And it's part of the American dream. Why owning a home is way out of reach, though, for so many right now.
A North County man rushes to church after checking his lottery ticket. The big news he had for his wife and her reaction.